We finally got the car done. It's back here safely, and now we're gonna start building up the car. One of the first steps that we're going to do is the donor E90, which is over here to my right. We're gonna start disassembling those components that we didn't need yet in the process. The brake lines, the fuel lines. We already have the subframes out. We're gonna start disassembling those because we're gonna powder coat the rear subframe, and we're gonna clean and redo the aluminum front subframe for the car. We also have to disassemble those because that's getting all the SPL arms, also the new Bilstein suspension as well. Basically, Adam is gonna just start transferring everything over here to everything onto the car and start building this up like it's a brand new car. And part of that process is we take parts off of the donor car and we inspect them and we make sure that each part fits the bill to be over here on this brand new car. And if it doesn't, we're either gonna order the brand new part from BMW, or we're gonna pull it off of one of our other donors that we have around here to make sure that it's brand new. Because a lot of the parts on a car that are hidden underneath all the covers really are not damaged, and they're really not bad to use. They just need to be cleaned. They need to be maybe painted, little stuff like that. We just really wanna pay attention to the details now, especially because all the work has gone into preparing this chassis. So we really wanna put on the proper parts to make the build a brand new car like we want just from BMW. You guys will notice there's no fenders on the car. We also have no hood. All of that was actually painted in the paint booth, but we don't have it here because we figured it was gonna be in our way because we're gonna be working obviously in a lot of this area. This has not been buffed or prepped in any way. It literally was painted. Brad inspected it. They took all the paper and everything off of it and then sent the car. We wanted it this way because we're gonna be working on the car. We wanted to have a lot of clear coat so we have room to work. So if something was to happen, we can fix it. We're gonna make this a running and driving car. Subframes go in, drivetrain goes in. We will put some interior components in to make the car run, be able to start it, be able to hook up the OBD, be able to communicate with the car. And we're gonna do the interior last. We're gonna be showing you guys multiple angles of every detail that goes into building up this car for SEMA. Let's go ahead and get started. Going on behind me, Peyton and Adam are removing the whole body harness from the E90 M3 so we can transfer it over to the wagon. So to remove the body harness in a car like this, you have to take off every single interior component, all the door cards, all the carpet, every panel, the dash, basically every single thing inside the car, because the harness runs through every panel, every piece of carpet. It runs all the way up to the headliner. Adam and them are right now about to drop the headliner out so we can get all of the components for the lights and for the rear glass. And it's just a crazy undertaking. All of this wire that you see is all connected throughout the whole car. It doesn't really come apart. It's all one big section that's gonna be picked up and then transferred over into the wagon. Currently, like I showed you guys before, inside the E91, we still have the E91 harness in there, and that's gonna be our kind of location guide to move this E91 and put it in place. It kind of falls into place because all the wiring runs have a certain length that goes chassis to chassis. But the trick here is that this being a wagon and that being a sedan, the runs can be a little bit different. There's also some components that are in this wagon that are not in the E90. The E90 does not have a sunroof. This car has a panoramic sunroof. The E90 doesn't have rear speakers. This has rear door speakers. This has a hatch that pops. This has a trunk that pops. There's also various other little changes and little things that are different. One of the biggest parts of the mechanical and the electrical with this build is making this harness work with this car and body, and also with the engine. So the engine harness, like I mentioned before, is already plugged into the motor, and it will marry with the body harness to complete the whole entire vehicle harness for this build. So what you see here is Adam and Peyton unpinning and repinning both harnesses to make one cohesive harness for the E91 M3. This is a cool part of this build because it makes it OEM, and as I keep repeating, that's important for this car. It also will make all of the modules and all of the functionality of a car work, and it will also register at BMW or at a service center when you plug the OBD port in to be an M3. A lot of the modules that communicate with each other, a lot of the engine modules, a lot of the transmission, all of that stuff needs to work as OEM because it is OEM. We also will have a lot of coding that we have to do. There's going to be a lot of programming that we have to do, and there's a lot of things that are going to see on paper, hey, we've wired that to work, but it's not working. That's because it requires coding. There's also a combination of reprogramming the whole car, updating the softwares that are on the modules. There's a lot of components here, but this is the foundation for functionality. This is the foundation to make a car, and this is the painstaking process of making this harness. You guys can see in the back all all of the plugs, all of the connectors. We're actually repinning some of the connectors, and we're unpinning some that we're not using, and terminating and grounding those wires so they're no longer functional, and basically mimicking the wiring harness of the M3 with the additions of the body components from the E91. It's a painstaking process, but one of the most important parts to this build, and it continues through the OEM theme of the car, and also having it be a car that can be serviced and driven and used as a normal car, and not just be a SEMA show queen, which is exactly what we're not going for. Stay tuned. We have a lot to work toward here. We're about 90% complete with the wiring. Now we're going to step out and do all the aftermarket upgrades that we have lined up for this build with our partners. So we'll now move on to that. We'll see you guys in the next video.